surprises for me and the real impactful things for me in this movie were how these characters impacted Spider-Man and why they're in this movie. And seeing all of that really work. And all of these villains had a how and a why for the most part. We'll talk about one that I wasn't quite sure about in just a second. But they had a reason to be there. It wasn't just to cash in on their appearance and get a clap out of the audience and do a third act fight scene and then go away. There's an actual story reason for them to exist, and they all are there to contribute to the development of the central character, which is Tom Holland's Peter Parker, which they never lose track of in the film. And it's another thing that I think is so important. This movie isn't just about a bunch of Spider-Men, it is about Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and that's another reason why it really works. I think Jamie Foxx's Electro was a great combination of the Electro that we already knew, but also a chance to inject some of Jamie Foxx's personality in, and particularly his comic sensibilities. And again, it doesn't seem jarring because you've written into the script a reason for this. Electro is in a new universe, it's a different kind of power, it makes him feel different, it makes him get his body back. They're able to explain it away, but not get mired down in the reasons why. And I liked Jamie Foxx in this movie. He had a lot of great lines. I love that scene between him and Sandman where they're talking about, oh, I fell into electric eels. Oh, well, I fell into a big spider. And Jamie Foxx has a line of, oh, you got to be careful where you fall. That's a great moment between those two characters and a great way for screenwriters, again, to take advantage of having these characters in the movie to do more than just yell at Spider-Man, but to actually compare notes about their lives. I also like the way that they use Sandman, at least in the first half of the film. I like that they bring in the version of Sandman after the events of Spider-Man 3, where he has already made peace with Peter Parker. He's an ally to him, really, at the beginning, so they don't have to just fight each other, but he actually helps them to apprehend Electro. But at the same time, when he switches sides, you understand why, because he's really only motivated by getting back home to see his daughter. And that matches what we know of his character. That's always been his primary motivation. And so him switching sides wasn't necessarily, to me, something out of convenience. Oh, yeah. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get home to my daughter. And I was going with you because you wanted to help everybody, but this is all going bad. So I'm out of here because your way's not working, and I'm going to go with the people that just are able to get me home. From a story standpoint, he also serves a very important purpose, which is that he is the link that is able to tell both Green Goblin and Doc Ock that they both died fighting Spider-Man, that Spider-Man was directly or indirectly responsible for their death. He's the person that's able to reveal the crucial information that set Spider-Man on course of saying, well, I'm not going to send these guys back to die. I want to save them. I want to help them. And that's what causes everything in this movie to happen, good and bad. And it's an example of writers, again, understanding why a character is there and smartly using him in order to move the plot forward, but not in a way that's just a plot convenience. If there was one villain that I think was really just kind of there, it was the Lizard. Reese Fahn's character was not the most popular Spider-Man character, but he also had a impact on me in The Amazing Spider-Man, and I think he was really here just to be a menace. He's got some really strong lines when they're all down there in the dungeon, but really he just needs to be someone for them to fight, and I think it's a glimpse of a movie that could have been made where all the characters were that. They were just there, and they fight Spider-Man, and then they go away at the end of the film. The villain that I really want to talk about is Green Goblin, and can we just have a moment of appreciation for Willem Dafoe, because he is so good. Not just in this movie, but in every movie as Green Goblin.
Tell me how! The heart, Osborn. First, the attack is hard.
And one of the smartest things I think they did was to have him break that mask so early on, because Willem Dafoe, facially, is able to be so much more menacing than that mask alone is able to convey. And I love that we get his facial performance throughout almost his the thing that's also great is that we spend so much time, and I mentioned how important it is that you want them to cure these bad guys and not just beat them. You spend so much time with Norman, and you forget just how scared and lost Norman is. And here we have a Norman that's even more lost. In this universe, he doesn't know what's going on already, and now he's in an even more alien world. And again, plot-wise, he's the person that inspires May to really go to Peter and say, look at this person. You're going to condemn this person to death. You have to get this point across. The movie doesn't really work. Of Peter learning this lesson of everyone is human, and your job is not to play judge, jury, and executioner. Your job is to be a hero. Your job is to save people. Your job is to help people. That's what you do. If you don't get that message across, the movie doesn't work. But at the same time, the dude is just terrifying as Goblin, and you see that turn, that smile, the glint in the eyes. It's like two different people in the same body. Will Ferrell is so great. He's so great that I would forgive the fact that they just couldn't just doing I'm something of a
I'm something of a scientist myself.
He's so good at being the lethal villain that Spider-Man needs that I will forgive them that moment of levity, that moment of self-indulgence, because so much of it. And this brings us to Aunt May, which was actually my favorite thing that they did in the film. Not that I hate Marissa Tomei or anything, but just story-wise, I was absolutely blown away with what they did here. Because first of all, when it comes to Green Goblin, he's a character that has cast a shadow, and it's one of the things I loved about the original Gwen Stacy storyline is that long after Gwen was dead, Goblin was still that one that Peter feared more than everyone else because he took away the person that he loved more than anyone else in the world. And now, even though this Goblin is not in Peter's universe anymore at the end of this movie, he is still kind of casting a shadow and will over Peter for the rest of his life because he took away Aunt May. I think that this was actually a really brilliant way of turning the entire idea of what this MCU Spider-Man is on its head, because I had always assumed that the whole Uncle Ben thing had already happened. When we meet him in Civil War, Peter kind of makes some allusions to what's happening, and I think that because we're all Spider-Man fans and there's no Uncle Ben there, and he is gone, I was under the impression that we just missed Uncle Ben dying along with the spider bite. But the thing that's important to understand about the origin story, especially Spider-Man's origin story, is that his origin story isn't getting bitten by the spider. That's what's in his powers. But the origin of Spider-Man is his relationship with Uncle Ben. But I never for 1 second thought that they would make Aunt May Peter's Uncle Ben. In retrospect, though, it makes total sense. And one thing that I like about this move here is that Cliff Robertson is great, Sheen is great. We're both really strong in the role as Uncle Ben. Both of them had, maybe 10, 15 minutes of screen time before they bought it. And we knew that it was going to happen because that's what happens to Uncle Ben. He dies. And we certainly empathize with Peter because he lost Uncle Ben, but we're not surprised by it, really. Here, we have a character in Aunt May. First of all, we've seen her through several movies now. We've seen their interaction. We know their relationship across several different movies, across so many different things that have happened with Peter. We fully understand just how important she is to Peter. She's indispensable. And then they kill her. And not only is the rug pulled out from under Peter Parker in that moment, the rug is pulled under from us, too, because now we feel like, in a way, that we love or a character that we care about. And so I found myself empathizing with Peter and the death of Aunt May here in a way that I never did in any of the other movies with Uncle Ben, because you know what's going to happen. Giving the with great power line to Marissa Tomei, which, by the way, she did a great job selling that, because that's a well-worn line. But the fact that you give it to her and she makes it feel fresh and feel new maybe should have been an indicator that she wasn't going to get this. Even at that point, even if she got knocked down and then got back up, I was like, oh, well, she's going to be fine. And then when I understood that she was going to die, I completely recontextualized this idea of Spider-Man. It's not that we missed his origin story. We just missed the spider bite. This whole thing leading up to this movie has been the origin story of this Spider-Man. This has all been proto-Spider-Man. And at the end of this time, we get the fully developed character of Spider-Man. Hopefully going forward. Maybe everybody else saw it coming or they weren't as impressed with it as I was, but it's so hard to surprise me in a Spider-Man movie, especially when it comes to an origin story, because I thought it was done, and I figured, well, if you're going to do it, you're going to see it coming. And yet, they were able to surprise me and tell this story in, I think, the most effective way that it's been told yet. Also, Marissa Tomei played that last scene beautifully as Aunt May, and it was a combination of the directing and the writing and the acting, but the way that she played it where she didn't even know that she was dying. She didn't really know what was happening. She honestly thought that she had just kind of lost her breath. She was kind of confused as to what was going on. And you have Peter cradling her, fully aware of what's happening. And Tom Holland played that scene so well. I mean, this was the best performance Tom Holland's put in a Spider-Man movie, I think, easily, of all the movies. Not just Spider-Man movies, but other movies. But the scene was also a great parallel to the Infinity War scene where Tom Holland is getting dusted. And he's scared and he's on his back and he's kind of being cradled by Tony Stark, who understands what's going on. And I think it's so smart, it's very subtle, but again, it's a way of showing that this character has come full circle. He's kind of moved into that Tony Stark role of being the developed adult, the experience in the So now we get to the big reveal, the one that everyone thought they probably knew was coming, but yet I think that a lot of people were still waiting to see. And this was one of the theater moments that you can't replicate, because when Ned opened the portal, you could tell kind of the levels of different Spider-Man fans or how eagle-eyed people were, because the second that Garfield turned around, some people immediately noticed the eyes on the mask and how big they were. So there was an initial kind of like a gasp that goes through the audience. And then when he gets closer, there was a sort of a collective like gasp that goes through the audience again, and he comes through the portal and people see the costume, and there's an initial round of applause and then some cheers. When Garfield popped that mask off, it was like being at the Super Bowl and your team just scored a cheer that I don't know if I've ever heard a cheer come out of an audience the way that it came out of the audience tonight when they were watching this. And I think that it was just this moment of catharsis, because everybody's been sitting there wondering, is this going to happen? Is it not going to happen? It was this big build-up, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but it feels like it kind of went beyond Spider-Man. It's almost like this is a shared moment that people have been craving for months, years. This idea that we could share this moment of revelation. It was a truly magical moment. And I know it seems dumb or silly or whatever when I talk about the shared theatrical experience, but these are the kind of things you don't get any other way. You don't get that at home. Even if you're watching it with 5 or 6 people, it really was a bit of movie magic. It's one that I will certainly never.
Spoilers. Sorry kung di ba kayo nanonood sa Spider-Man. So yun siya na. I'm watching spoilers here. Sorry.
To deny in every interview that he's in this movie.
You're in the new Spider-Man. No Way Home. Congratulations. Yes, congratulations.
I love Spider-Man. To play the part. Is Andrew Garfield playing Spider-Man? No. Crying out loud.
What did people want him to say? Yes? He wanted to spoil the biggest surprise that Marvel's been coming up for many years. Of course he had to lie. Of course he had to say he wasn't going to be in it. Everybody knew that that's what he had to say. He deserves some recognition just on that level, but also this is maybe my favorite Andrew Garfield performance in any Spider-Man movie, including his own. And again, it's because it's not just Andrew Garfield in a costume popping in to say hi. Would have gotten probably the same kind of cheer, but it would not affect the audience in the same way, because we learned more about this character. This is a deeply hurt and damaged person. We see the that Gwen's death is happening, and he mentions the fact that he's filled with rage. He says he stopped pulling punches. This is a pretty violent Spider-Man. You see that damage, you see that hurt, you see that anger, and we see how this experience and how he can go back to his life, having been changed by what he goes through in this movie, by meeting these different versions of Spider-Man. So we get this deep well pain, and we get this character, and we get a bit of a payoff from a loose end of Amazing Spider-Man 2, but at the same time, we get that Andrew Garfield humor. That's what really set him apart, was the effortless humor when he was playing Spider-Man. One of my favorite moments in the movie, and it's a small performance, is when they're kind of mid-fight, they're trying to figure out how to work as a team, and just this kind of begrudging whatever when he acknowledges that he's going to be known as Peter 3. It's just such a great little moment, and he has so many of those throughout the film, but also these great dramatic moments. I just loved him so much in this movie. And then we have Tobey Maguire. Tobey Maguire has been in a live-action film since 2014. So first of all, it's just great to see Tobey Maguire again. But the other thing that I love is that, and again, it comes down to the writing, they don't make him play 22. They're not de-aging Tobey Maguire and making him pretend like he just stepped out of the industry. He's playing the age is now, and he plays an important function in this kind of trio of Spider-Man. He's the mentor. I love the interaction between Garfield and McGuire at the Statue of Liberty, where Garfield's cracking. It's kind of a rap session. He's just like, hey man, listen, why are you so down on yourself? Let's work on the self-talk. Spider-Man, you're amazing. You gotta acknowledge that. And Garfield's like, yeah, you know what? I kind of needed to hear that. It's not just Tobey Maguire playing a Spider-Man. He's playing a version of Spider-Man that is kind of tapping into what the audience is already giving him, which is that seniority. They understand that we as an audience already acknowledge Tobey as the senior Spider-Man, as the Spider-Man with the most experience and the most authority, and they wrote his character like that. So they don't just write 3 identical Spider-Men, they all have a different level. This all leads to what I think might be my favorite scene in any Spider-Man movie. One of my favorite scenes in any Marvel movie, which is this scene on the roof of the school where Peter is just devastated. Ned's there, MJ is there, and they came to console him. But you start with that great shot of looking up, and you see Tobey and Andrew, Peter and Peter, silhouetted by the moon, perched on the roof, and then jump down, and they help Peter, and I love this idea that when Tobey says, I had a feeling that he needed help. And what you have here is a Spider-Man in Tom Holland who's having the worst night of his life. And he's helped through it by the only 2 people that can possibly understand what he's going through, because they've already gone through it. They're seeing an echo of themselves, and they earnestly are saying, I want to help you through this. And again, because you have these Spider-Men in such different places, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is saying basically, I want to help you through this because, you know what, I lost the person that I love, and I see that rage in you, and that's where I am right now. I'm filled with rage, I'm not pulling my punches, and I want you to become that, and I'm going to help you do that. And then with Tobey, with the experience and the time, he says, I want to help you because I did what you want to do now. I was the person that killed the person I love the most, my Uncle Ben. And he did die, and you know what it did for me? It did nothing. And I want to help you that way. It was just such a great Spider-Man moment. I don't mean movie Spider-Man, I just mean character Spider-Man. I think that is one of the best Spider-Man moments across all media, across all decades, across all generations. And shows the people in charge of this movie get it. They understood what they needed to do with this film. They understood what they needed to do with these characters, and they absolutely nailed it. And I love it when a movie does that. I seem pumped up. I love that scene so much because I love these movies. I love these characters, and I know sometimes I'm hard on them, but it's because I hate it when I don't think they're handled well, or I hate it when I see potential there that's wasted, or it seems like, well, if you could have just revised more or done this a little bit more, and you don't get a whole lot of shots at these things. You don't get a whole lot of shots to do something as big as this. So when you see a movie take a swing this big, and they connect, you hear the crack of that bat, and it's a home run, and you can tell that somebody somewhere said, if we're going to do this, let's do the damn thing. They did the damn thing, and I think they did it flawlessly. I'm sure there's a lot of credit to go around, but I really do think you have to thank John Watson and Eric Rivers, the director of this film, the co-writers of the screenplay, and of course everybody that contributed to the Spider-Man mythology over the years, because it really is a payoff of, what, 60 plus years almost of this Spider-Man storytelling, and yet it still works as well as it did when it was first written. And this really extends to all the scenes that they shared together. I thought that they all were extremely well written, and so much humor in there. Humor that makes sense, and humor that's born out of the situation. Ned trying to say Peter and then saying Peter Parker, and they're like, yeah, this is the same problem. There's no difference if you saying Peter or Peter Parker. When the 3 of them all compare villains, I'm really jealous because you got to fight aliens, and I fought a Russian guy in a rhino suit, and I wonder if a little bit of that is actually Andrew Garfield coming through to those 2 actors and expressing a little bit of how he actually feels. And as great as these moments are, I think my personal favorite, and again it goes back to Garfield, and this is a moment that honestly I think a lot of people saw. When they saw that Zendaya as MJ was going to be falling in this movie, you have the shot of Tom Holland's Parker trying to reach out. Even Mara, when she saw the trailer, said, well, you know, if Garfield's in the lead, he's going to fly in and he's going to save MJ. And so we kind of know that Garfield's going to swing in and save her. But it's that moment afterwards when he saves her and he says, are you okay? And you see this mixture of like happiness and grief. And again,
oh yeah, Halika, halika. Halika to. Halika. Halika kuya. Sige, wag mo na kasing gamitin to. Huwag mo na gamitin to. Kita ka ni Samira, oh. Kasi lagi mo nang inaakyat eh. Oh. Susunod na tulad sa taas. Buti sa upuan lang sa lang. Kasi natapakan lang sa taas. Tapos, syempre, tulog siya. Okay lang ka na, nakakaita na anak. Madala ka na.
I mentioned in my spoiler review, I wasn't crazy about what they did with the character in the beginning, but it was such an emotional vibe. It was really just get a bit of real life, but you could really feel the love and affection.
Samira, isa ka pa.
They've been a great team since the beginning, and I don't know what Tom Holland and Jimmy Fallon's relationship is in real life, but that was such a touching parallel between two
Opo.
Also let it try do I think they're going to take 1 second that they're going to keep the day in I just think they're immediately or kind of fall into these same cliches that they've already done. And that wraps up the main story. Of course, we do get to the mid-credit scene, which is I love the Venom movies. I do. Well, I wouldn't say I love them, but I certainly like the lore and the actors. And I was definitely intrigued at the end of one of the cards. Spoiler alert, that movie, but they bring him into this universe. But when they set the rules for this one, it really doesn't make any sense why he's there. Because the only people that's are people who know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So Venom obviously hasn't learned that in his universe because there is no Spider-Man. if he's going to meet Spider-Man, it's going to be a different Spider-Man than any of the ones that we've met. So you could say like, oh well, he's going to learn in the future that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, but it didn't work that way with anybody else in this movie. So it's really just kind of confusing why he's in this universe in the first place. But part of me is just like, well, I can excuse this if they're going to land him here somehow. And now Eddie is in the MCU universe, and we're going to see. But of course, no. Then he just disappears and goes back to his universe. So it's really kind of a fake out that he was even here at the beginning, and it just seems like an excuse to ease the symbiote. Now it's here. Yeah, we've already done the Venom storyline with Toby. I really don't want to go through it again with Tom Holland. It just feels like we've been there and done that. Maybe Kevin Feige dictated that whole storyline from his desk. I don't know, but this kind of feels like the short-sighted franchise mixing that Sony has done in the past. Because even with, like, this universe, we saw the trailer for Morbius, and it seems like Morbius shares a universe with Michael Keaton, who's in the MCU universe, and yet he also references Venom, which is not in the same universe. Canonically, we know he's not in the same universe because we just saw him go back to his universe. And I just feel like Sony is trying to have their cake and eat it too here, and I hope that there's a hand on the wheel that's just sort of trying to guide them from mixing all this up, because you just hit a home run in that, and A+ the Venom thing was a bit disappointing for me. I wish they would have at least left him here, but you know, it is what it is. Maybe this is all just a way to get the buzz up about the next Venom movie. I don't know. One quick crowd story. The teaser for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness ran, which is the very last thing after the whole credits had run. They do the reveal at the end there of the evil, it appears like the evil Doctor Strange. And after it ended, as people were filing out, the guy was like, oh man, I thought it was going to be Mephisto. Well, maybe that was Mephisto. So I think that I may be able to bring to you a reported instance of Mephisto speculation about the next Marvel property. Maybe now someday somebody can explain to me this obsession with Mephisto. Is it just because he didn't show up in WandaVision and people thought that he would? Because now it seems like every time there's a character with his back turned to the camera in a Marvel film or a TV show, people think it's Mephisto. I'm not really in any hurry to have the devil show up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it seems like Mephisto is the name on everyone's lips. And speaking of crowds, there's one last thing I want to say before I wrap up, because I know it's been quite some time here. But there is a sentiment amongst many people, and it's not one particular group. You see directors say it in interviews, you see critics say it, you see people on social media say it, you see people that just like these movies say it, that these MCU movies are the death of cinema. That they're killing movies. A lot of things have been written on that concept, and I would say to people that think that, or I would challenge them, go to a screening of this movie this week. Just go and watch watching this movie. Watch the magic that this movie casts. At least the magic cast over my audience, and it really casts over the first audience I saw it with too, which is half full and no critics. This is a movie that made me cry, it made me cheer. At times they were rapid attention. After the movie was over, we walked out to the lobby and it was buzzing. There were pods and crowds of different people that were talking excitedly about what they had seen and comparing notes and talking about this one they loved, and that one they loved. There wasn't one person that didn't have a smile on their face. And when you go outside the theater, there are people lined up waiting to go themselves. Maybe some people that haven't even gone back in line to go like an amusement park ride to watch the movie a second time. If that isn't the magic of the movie, then I don't know what is. If what this movie was able to do with the audience tonight isn't what you want as a film, or isn't what you want as a film goer, then I don't really know what else.
Samira, alis dyan.
I think that there is
Samira,
inclination
alis dyan. Samira.
their nose up that people are entertained and say that it doesn't count, or it's
Very good.
brainless stuff for the masses. And some of it is. Some of it is. But a lot of it is. I don't think there's any better endorsement for why movie television should stay alive and should stay in business. To be quite frank, are staying alive and are staying in business than movies like this. Movies made by yes, it has a $200 million budget. And yes, it's about comic book heroes. But it also has heart and emotion and humanity and all the things that you want in a great movie experience. So all the people that thumb their nose at movies like this and write off an entire genre, mostly science as saying that they don't understand movies, or that movies would be better off if they aren't around, or that they're the death of them, I would say to you, it's
ayusin
actually
natin.
the opposite. It's movies like this that are keeping cinema alive and have kept cinema alive for 100 years. I love this movie. If you didn't love this movie, that's perfectly okay. But if you haven't seen it, and you kind of just write these things off as brainless, mindless things, go see it. Go experience it. And I think you might come out differently. Thanks so much for watching this spoiler review of Spider-Man No Way Home. I will continue releasing reviews throughout the week, and if you want to see more of what I'm up to, you can check out Patreon, patreon.com/Dan Merle. Thanks for sticking with me. Very much. I hope you enjoyed the film as much as I did. We have a lot of great stuff still on tap for the rest of the year, and it does seem like the theaters are on their way back. This movie-going experience is on their way back. Even if they it again, I think what this movie has proven is that you can't kill. Stay safe out there. I'll see you
Ow.
Kevin does those because he wants to get it out of that. It's really my offer's bad energy because I'm not. You guys are amazing. I'm not worried about getting it out of that. I'll give you the 300,000. He's cutting me by 5. I'll rather I want 15. I'm giving away more of my company. I'm personally optimizing for in your investment for that 50%.
Yeah.
I think it's an extra partnership. Yeah, way more than that. I have me and my team involved. I've never seen such grace. You know what? I was going to ask which one is yeah. And then Kevin went down to 5. I hate green. I hate the display of
Pusoy. 100 kagad yan! Oh, 50 pesos. Yung dede si Simon.
Robert, would you be willing to make some? Yeah, absolutely. 15% is their offer. I really want to push folks. Their expenses are the fuel on that fire. 200,000, 50%. I don't know why we're still talking. Patrick and Jeremy, what are you guys doing?
Alright, so Ms. Michael, thank you for your offer. Robert,
800 kagad yan! Ang lakas naman! Wala na ako. Pakalo na agad. Ano ba yan? 4,000 kagad siya oh.
So a royalty is massive for us. It's just taking money out of the business at a critical time in our growth. We have to be investing every dollar back into our
Oh.
In season 10, Lucinda Cramsey made a deal with Jamie Siminoff for a subscription box service. Let's see how Mike is doing now.
Ayaw mo pa rin kumain, anak. Kumain ka naman.
I wasn't just representing Boston. The family homes all across America.
Hindi ka na kumakain ng solid food.
So I created Point Health Farmers can have dinner or work. Mainly raise things from like
I'm in the today to check out
voice operations. I want to bring my son here to show him another part of the country and how on Earth show can truly change the world.
Today's an exciting day. It's our annual Harvest Fest. It's a chance to celebrate the harvest in our way of life. Your guys' called guests below. When I saw $815,000 in revenue, it's been less than a year. $1 million. I outgrew my picket pack zoning and had to move my operations to Kansas City. We've welcomed 15 family farms to our growing group.
Ay, spaghetti sauce, te. Initin, ano natin, ilagay mo sa pan para matunaw. Medyo solid nga lang. Palagay mo, baka kainin ngayon. Yung spaghetti sauce sa freezer. Ha? Sige, try natin. Yung sabaw. Chicken broth. Sabawan mo lang yung kanin. Sige, kahit kanin lang.
Next up is a doctor who hopes his product will address a growing health problem.
Tapos lagyan mo lang ng onting-onting tuna para may onting laman. Onting-onti lang.
Very bacteria. He's very bad. Barry wasn't always this terrible. He used to be just a little guy. He gave me course of antibiotics. People loved how well antibiotics work on Barry. So much so that they started requesting prescriptions anytime they got a cough, sore throat, or even just a sneeze. The problem was that they were actually infected by this guy.
Ayaw rin.
Victor virus. Victor gives you similar symptoms to Barry, but and viruses cannot be treated with antibiotics. Antibiotics only kill bacteria, like Barry. So what happened? Well, they stayed sick, and they ended up making Barry stronger. Now Barry is a superbug. Barry's become resistant to antibiotics, and he's not alone. Look, superbugs are taking over. They're even attacking this car. I'm kidding, but I'm dead serious about this crisis. That's why I created EasyCPAC. EasyCPAC is an award-winning, physician-formulated immune support pack. Combination, zinc, and vitamin C. EasyC. Formulated to strengthen your immune system.
Ayaw.
Because your immune system is what kills viruses like Victor. So,
Palagay mo,
see that EasyC
gusto mong sugalan yung soup?
investment. You're seeking $125,000.
Biskuit.
So what's your perspective?
Look, you're the doctor, not me, but I know that family history and what's happened in the past is more indicative of what's going to happen in the future. And so knowing information about yourself is critical.
Mark, I don't see how any of this is relevant to a patient walking in, requesting antibiotics, and walking out.
No, that's not what you said. You said that part of the problem that we're facing in America today is that it's a consumer-driven healthcare. So you think it's a bad thing consumers have more information about their health?
I think that we do have an issue where products are marketed directly to consumers who may or may not have adequate health literacy to determine if that's
and that's why it gets sold. Because that's why there's tons of these that are out there.
I think that's fair, Mark. I think the way he said it is fair.
Listen, I've been talking a lot about the overuse of antibiotics. It's going to make it that in X amount of years we will not be able to fight off bacteria because we won't have antibiotics that work, correct? That's what they're projecting. I mean, you're kind of looking at me funny. Do you agree with what I'm saying?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
No, absolutely agree. I mean,
So let me tell you, doctor, I'm very into natural products. Whenever I started I was getting cold, I was using it.
which product has zinc? So let's
Well,
talk
wait a
about
minute.
zinc.
Why are you ignoring what I'm saying?
I'm sorry.
That's odd to me. I'm talking to you,
Sarah,
and I'm telling you that I'm into all of this. You know, wait a minute. You know what? I'm just going to finish. I was the customer. I've been taking zinc for years. I'm a believer in this. I'm the one talking about antibiotic resistance and how important it is. But the fact that when I'm talking to you, you don't even look at me, I'm out.
I'm sorry to hear.
okay then.
I don't know how we got here.
Doctor,
We're never going to talk about your
how is it going in the Shark Tank?
I didn't to offend you.
I
I'm
am
really
offended.
sorry.
I feel like you don't respect me as a female sitting here.
This is what you're
You
asking.
don't want to prove me why.
Wait a
No,
second.
I want to
I
hear.
just want to ask about the number.
I don't care.
Is that too much to ask?
I have a lot of respect for you. I think one of the things I love about you is that you're so positive. You're so upbeat. So many people.
You're getting that vibe from her right now.
Absolutely.
I am all of the above, but I also, as a woman, and a woman in this world, and a woman in business, I think it's very important for women to speak up for themselves and to stand up for themselves. Not very often. I don't think I've ever reacted like this on Shark Tank, but I looked right at you. Maybe you were shaken by what Mark said. Maybe you were. I don't know, but I do know that when you came out here, you were looking at everybody else, not really me. I just sensed some chauvinism here, and I'm out again.
Sorry, wait a minute. Doctor.
I'm not a chauvinist.
Even though Lori was interested in Sarah's immune support product, EZC Pack, he is alienated her and she's dropped out.
I don't care whether I like you, I don't like you, whether you offended somebody or not. What I would like to know, what are your sales?
Last 12-month sales have been 1.2 million.
What did you make on it?
Gross profit on that was 850,000.
Yeah.
The net was negative 150,000.
Right.
So last year we spent $750,000 to generate 1.1 million
What did you
sales.
spend it on?
I spend basically about 25% on direct-to-consumer advertising.
How is your product different from all other products out in the market that have a Canadian zinc, vitamin C, and
I actually thought this product existed, and then looked at what did exist. Well, there were a lot of products on the market that were actually not based on the clinical data. When you look at the classic zinc lozenge, it only has 10 milligrams of zinc in the wrong form. It's zinc gluconate. So there are a lot of these products that are diluted.
I got it. I got it.
ingredients.
I just don't think it's for me. I got it.
Okay, I want to know your numbers, right?
So this is the base SKU. This is the 5-day product. This retails for somewhere between $15.99 and $19.99.
What does it cost you to make
The
it?
margin is 80%.
That's fantastic. Is this primarily a retail or
Primarily chain retail. 9,000 doors last year.
And are you running
For the last 3 years.
So you're no longer practicing.
Correct.
Oh, you're no longer practicing?
Correct.
they literally don't have enough dollars.
It's not a women's issue. It's a Mark issue.
Wow, why do you want to argue with?
Good idea.
A lot of doctors over the years.
Why are you poking the bear?
I don't want to say these kind of things. I don't know
Why do
why.
you feel the need to poke the bear?
No, I just want to know. That's all.
Daniel has a question for you. Why don't you answer? their child out.
All right, Oscar. Good night, Oscar.
Those are real tears.
Believe it or not, Oscar actually sleeps in this every night at home. He's just having a little stage anxiety. Thank you.
Bye, Oscar. This one prison costs how much when you sell it?
We sell for $149.99, and the landing cost is $56.
Lou, how do you come up with the idea of a tent for children?
So when I come for the Christmas holidays, when my oldest daughter was a year and a half, we had to stay in the same room with her. That room didn't have great window treatment, so some light. And she was waking up in the night, seeing us across the room, and not understanding that she needed to stay in bed, but it wasn't time to wake up. And we got 2 or 3 hours of sleep a night, 2 nights in a row, to the point where we went home a day early. Like, sleep deprivation is a military torture tactic because it makes you miserable and crazy.
Short
Right?
twins.
Yeah, that's a good point. Also,
How long will it take you to put it back in the box?
breaking it down probably takes 2 minutes, and then putting it in the bag another 30 seconds.
Must you have an active player when the child pulls out the liquid?
That's a great question, Barbara. So it also fits toddler cot inside, or you can make a pallet on the floor out of blankets. It's not designed to confine a child. It's designed to create a dark and private sleep environment.
It looks really complicated.
There are instructions sewn right into the bag, as simple as setting up a kitchen tent. You know, it may look a little bit cumbersome, but what you make up for that is in how small it is. That's what allows it to fit and carry on life.
I've started selling now. How much your sale?
We launched in August, and then this year we've done 556,000.
Damn.
What a surprise.
Why buy it, Lou?
Because moms are obsessed. They love to talk about things that work, and they love to put it on Instagram. We do very limited advertising.
So you guys have got to be just so profitable and just generating cash, printing money.
We've been profitable in February. We have no debt. What is your background? Tell us about you. I actually went back to college as a single mom at 39 years old and got my master's degree at 50. And I've worked for Fortune 500 and small software companies. She's also a mom of 6 kids, and I'm the oldest of 6 kids. I'm in the automotive space currently, and I'm a mom to 3. I have 3 twins. So I think about sometimes if I had given away a percent of my business, would it have been right for me? Or was it better that I had everything and do it myself, which made me stronger, smarter, better, and not a one-person company anymore? I don't say this often, but I think you should continue to do what you're doing because I truly believe that I'm going to go out. Obviously, we have mixed feelings about that response, but thank you.
I want to add to Lori's story, if I may. Something happened to me that was a real lesson. It was an terrible real estate recession. I owed the whole world so much money. And as luck would have it, Merrill Lynch came and offered to buy my business. They offered me $250,000. And here's what happened. They changed their mind. And I thought this guy had fallen. You know, it was only 5 years later I sold my business for $66 million. So worry about it. Be careful when you sell your stock. But that being said, I want to take advantage of it.
One shark is out, but Barbara may be interested in Bill and Katie's child sleeping tent.
But that being said, I want to take advantage That's the truth.
She's nothing if not honest, right?
So I'm going to offer $400,000 for 25
Kumain. Pero kumain at least. Okay lang yan. Marami actually yan. Pakitago na lang. May sumfrey sa taas. Patanggal lang siya sa ano. Buwan.
Savage offer. I don't like it. I do not appreciate that kind of rate. At 9% for 3 years, I will cover all your insurance. And I'm going to take 7% equity for that.
Wala man lang akong meron ako. Kaya... Ayoko na.